Hello friends, back again with Jack Recapped. So in this video, I will tell you about a movie called The Christmas Setup. This movie is a drama romance movie with a duration of 1 hour 25 minutes, directed by Pat Mills, and the script is written by Michael J. Murray. The movie that stars Ben Lewis as Hugo Spencer, Blake Lee as Patrick Ryan, Ellen Wong as Madeline McKay, and Fran Drescher as Kate Spencer. The Christmas Setup tells the story of a young lawyer who returns to his hometown of Milwaukee to celebrate Christmas with his family. There, he meets Patrick, an old friend who turns out to have feelings that are more than just friendship. But before I get into the content of the story, again, I want to warn that this video contains spoilers from the movie The Christmas Setup. So, for those of you who have not seen the movie, I recommend that you watch the movie first. If you have watched it and still need further explanation, then watch this video. Let's begin. The movie begins by showing the atmosphere before Christmas. A young lawyer named Hugo Spencer decides to take some time off and go home to his parents in Milwaukee. Knowing that he has been working well and being relied upon at his law firm, Hugo applies for his position to be promoted at the beginning of the coming year. He returns to interview by his boss. And his boss says that they are not sure about promoting Hugo and still need to consider many things. Hugo was disappointed to hear that and told him that he would look for another firm if he wasn't promoted next year. His boss was cool with his attitude and Hugo left the office. After which Hugo went to see Madeline. Madeline is his close friend since college. Because Madeline doesn't like to spend Christmas holidays with her family, Hugo invited her to come home with him to his parents' house in Milwaukee. Madeline agreed, and Hugo immediately called her mother to tell her that he was coming with Madeline. Her mother was so happy to hear it. Hugo's mother, Kate, was very happy to welcome them. Kate admitted to being lonely at home alone since Hugo's father died. Even so, she was very jolly and immediately considered Madeline as her family. There, Hugo and Madeline asked the list on the blackboard filled with their names. It turned out that Kate had prepared a list of tasks for them and several activities during the Christmas season. Coincidentally, his mother was the coordinator for the annual Christmas festival event held at a train station. Of course, it would keep the three of them very busy. Hugo objected at the time, but his mother forbade him to be lazy while he was there. That day, they also started their respective tasks. Kate invited Madeline to go shopping with her, while Hugo was asked to decorate the house and wait for someone to come to deliver the Christmas tree. It turned out that the one who came to his house was his old school friend named Patrick. He panicked a little because he had a crush on Patrick. He even fell down the stairs because he was so nervous to open the door. Even though he felt pain, he immediately offered to help Patrick lift his Christmas tree into the house. Before setting up the tree, Patrick asked Hugo if he knew him, when Hugo pretended to forget and Patrick immediately told him his name. He also explained that they used to go to school together, and when Hugo asked if the tree was straight, Patrick was surprised to hear it, and Hugo immediately corrected his meaning. Hugo tried to give Patrick a tip before leaving his house, but Patrick refused and told him that all the money from the sale of the tree would be donated. But Hugo still urged Patrick to accept it. Patrick left, and soon Kate and Madeline returned home. Kate saw Patrick's glove left there and asked Hugo to keep it. Hugo happily told Madeline that he had just reunited with his old classmate. He also showed his photo to Madeline and told her that Patrick was his dream student at school. Seeing Hugo excited, Madeline suggested returning Patrick's gloves. Hugo agreed, and they went there on foot. On the way, Hugo pointed out a place where he had many memories as a child, an old train station that was no longer used. They also saw a pamphlet that said that the station was soon to be demolished. Hugo was surprised to see it and felt sad if it happened. Madeline also invited him to continue the journey. Soon they arrived at the Christmas tree store owned by Patrick's father. Patrick was surprised to see Hugo there and immediately came to see him. He thought that Hugo's mother didn't like the Christmas tree that was delivered. Hugo told him that they had come to return his gloves that he had left behind. Patrick said that he had been trying to find the glove and that it often happened when he was confused. Hugo was surprised to hear it. Because he was so nervous to respond to Patrick, Hugo forgot to introduce Madeline first to Patrick. Seeing Hugo and Madeline so close, Patrick thought they were dating. Hugo diverted the discussion by asking about his family's Christmas tree business. Patrick said that what they were doing was not a business, but to raise donations for his foundation. He also told that he had retired and had sold the app company he had created himself. he decided to build a foundation to help the surrounding community, including supporting events chaired by Hugo's mother. Hugo was surprised to hear it and couldn't believe that Patrick had retired at such a young age. He was curious to get to know Patrick better, but suddenly, Patrick's father apologized because Patrick had to go back to helping him. Patrick was forced to end their conversation. Madeline was amazed to see Patrick and Hugo, regretted giving Patrick a tip. The next day, Hugo approached his mother, who was busy preparing something for Christmas. He asked his mother if the old train station was really going to be demolished. His mother confirmed it and told him that they had tried to fight for the station not to be demolished. Kate also told him that Patrick was also helping her. Shortly after, Patrick and his father came to their house to deliver flowers for decoration. Patrick introduced Hugo and Madeline to his father and said that they were a married couple. Hugo and Madeline laughed at the remark and immediately denied that they were not a married couple. Madeline told them that they had been friends since college. Kate also said that her son was gay while she was straight. Patrick was surprised to hear it, and he asked Hugo to help him lift some other items from his truck. Actually, he just wanted to invite Hugo to come again to the place yesterday. Hugo also agreed, even though he was playing a little hard to get. That night, Hugo came alone to Patrick's place, but he only found Patrick's father there. His father told him that Patrick was away delivering the Christmas tree. Hugo did not mind waiting for him while enjoying the hot chocolate suggested by Patrick earlier. Hugo also took the time to look back at the old station not too far from that location. There he met an old acquaintance and they chatted for a while. After that, Hugo went back to see Patrick, but the man had not returned yet. When he decided to go home, Patrick suddenly appeared. He had just returned and apologized to Hugo for being late. He asked Hugo to wait another hour because he had to help his father to close the shop. But Hugo was already feeling a little disappointed and decided to go straight home. The next day, Hugo was suddenly asked by his mother about Patrick. Hugo also realized that his mother was very supportive if the two of them were in a relationship. But Hugo told him that Patrick was very busy, while he was only there for 2 weeks. Soon Patrick came to apologize to Hugo in front of his mother. Hugo accepted his apology, and Kate immediately asked Patrick to help Hugo put up the Christmas lights. Patrick was happy to help him, and it turned out that Kate was planning to bring them closer together. Hugo and Patrick went up to the roof to put up the Christmas lights. Kate and Madeline leaving them alone. Hugo and Patrick talk about their school days. Patrick wished he knew Hugo more intimately from the past. But Hugo replied that Patrick had liked the busyness from the past. When Hugo accidentally dropped the ladder, Patrick shouted for help to Kate and Madeline, but Kate and Madeline pretended not to hear them and left them alone. In the afternoon, the children gathered in the courtyard of their house for Christmas activities. At that time, Kate told them that the person who played Santa Claus had a minor injury. She was forced to ask and persuade Hugo to replace him. Patrick also helped Hugo to put on his Santa Claus costume. Madeline also tried to bring Patrick closer to Hugo. When Hugo told a story to the children, Patrick was amazed. He praised Hugo after the event was over and invited Hugo again the next day to hang out at his place. Although a little hesitant, but Hugo accepted his invitation. The next day, Hugo arrived and saw that the place was very quiet. He also explored a little inside, and it turned out that Patrick had made a surprise for him. He had prepared dinner and served Hugo his favorite food. While enjoying their food and drinks, the two of them talked for a long time. There, Hugo did not expect that they would meet again. Patrick said that he was supposed to come to his house to deliver Christmas on Monday, but Kate urged him to deliver it on Tuesday. Because of that, Hugo suspected that his mother had arranged their meeting. At this time, Hugo also expressed his pride to Patrick for being so admired in his school, even though at that time he had dared to be open with his identity. The next day, Kate again asked Hugo about his time last night with Patrick. Hugo also asked his mother not to interfere in his personal affairs with Patrick. Even so, his mother still casually responded. At that time, she handed over the key to the door of the old train station to Hugo. Hugo was very happy and asked where his mother got the key. It turned out that Santa Claus, who was replaced by Hugo yesterday, handed him the key because he had seen Hugo peeking into the train station room. They immediately went there to see it. After that, Hugo's brother, who served in the Air Force, also came home to spend the Christmas holidays with them. His brother's name was Aiden, and Madeline liked him. At this time, Madeline also received an assignment from Kate. Kate invited them to caroling to sing happy songs. She also invited Patrick with them. And it turned out that Kate also planned to bring Madeline closer to Aiden. While they were singing, Hugo suddenly received a call from his boss telling him that he was promoted, but he asked Hugo to be ready to relocate to London for the new branch. Hugo was so happy to hear it, because London was also the city he dreamed of. The next day, when they were decorating the station for Christmas, Madeline came up to Hugo and asked about the phone call he received last night. Hugo also took Madeline out of the station and told her the good news he received last night. Even so, Hugo had not made a final decision and asked Madeline not to tell anyone about it. In the station, Aiden asked his mother if Madeline was single, but his mother asked him to ask Madeline directly. Aiden also began to approach Madeline and wanted to get to know her better. At that moment, Patrick came to deliver the Christmas tree to be installed at the station. Kate again asked Patrick to help Hugo decorate the tree, but at that time, Hugo began to change his attitude not to get too close to Patrick. He was afraid of falling more in love with him because he would soon return to New York. He also poured out his feelings to Madeline. After finishing decorating the tree, Patrick was curious to check the top floor of the station. The two of them went upstairs and saw a locked office room there. They peeked at it, and Hugo told him that the room was the office of the station owner named Edgar Carroll and who had died long ago. Even so, the room still looked intact and neat. Hugo also asked his mother for the key to the room, and they managed to enter it. Hugo tries to read the writing or documents on Edgar Carroll's desk. He finds out that Edgar left all his property to someone named Ashby. At that time, Patrick also found photos of Edgar with Ashby when they were traveling together. Hugo was surprised to see it, and they were convinced that Carroll was gay. Seeing all the memories that exist, Hugo is then determined to fight for the station, so that it is not destroyed. However, Patrick told him that they had previously tried the same thing, but their efforts were in vain. But Hugo didn't care, and he tried to take some documents from the room. Patrick felt proud of him, and before leaving the room, he was about to kiss Hugo, but it was delayed because the alarm on his phone app went off. That night, he also took Hugo to an open place. He invited him to see Northern Lights. Hugo didn't believe him, but with Patrick's app, he convinced Hugo. They then talked while waiting for the light to appear. When Hugo was impatient to wait, suddenly the light was seen. Patrick asked if Hugo already believed him. Hugo answered him, and they kissed under the Northern Lights. One night, when Kate invited her family to play a question and answer game about Christmas, they also invited Patrick and someone named Jimmy. While they were debating an answer with the word London, Madeline accidentally said that Hugo would move there. Everyone was surprised to hear it, especially Patrick and Kate. Kate immediately asked Hugo about it, and Hugo finally told her everything. His mother was a little shocked to hear it, but she was still proud of Hugo and hugged him. But Patrick felt sad because Hugo would go away. Patrick immediately chose to go home with the excuse of helping his father. Hugo walked him to the door and apologized for not telling him about London earlier. But Patrick tried to calm down and still congratulated Hugo. After Patrick left, Hugo asked himself why he didn't find someone like Patrick in New York. Madeline approached Hugo and apologized to him. Hugo was not angry with Madeline and said that he had intended to tell that. After examining the documents owned by Edgar Carroll, Hugo told his mother that the station was handed over to the local community association. His mother was happy to hear it because she was the president of the association. Hugo also advised his mother to find a lawyer, but Kate replied that she no longer needed to find a lawyer because her own son was a lawyer. His mother was so proud of Hugo. Later that night, Hugo took Madeline and Aiden to the party that Patrick had told him about. Hugo liked the atmosphere of the party very much, but he was still holding back the good news about the station that he wanted to tell Patrick. He wanted to see Patrick's attitude, whether he really loved him. He also sang a song before telling the good news. While Hugo was singing, Patrick felt sad to hear the words in Hugo's song. He immediately left the party while Hugo was still singing. Hugo tried to catch up with him outside the room. Patrick said that he couldn't bear the separation and couldn't bear the long-distance relationship. He left immediately and didn't have time to tell him that he chose to stay there. Christmas Eve came and all the local people came to celebrate at the old train station. Kate was very proud of her two sons for helping her to maintain Christmas traditions there. At that time, Hugo saw Patrick's father present without Patrick. He was a little disappointed to see Patrick not come. Shortly after, Kate asked Hugo to speak to the audience to share the good news that the station would not be demolished. Patrick arrived in the middle of his speech. In his speech, Hugo said that he would dedicate his life to continuing the Christmas traditions created by Edgar Carroll and also decided not to accept the offer to work in London. Patrick was amazed to see it and came to greet Hugo. Hugo takes him to a corner of the room and shows him something. They talk about Edgar Carroll's struggles with his past love affairs, but they still have sweet memories. Hugo and Patrick became inspired by Edgar Carroll. Kate came to hand out papers for them to write down their wishes to Santa. Hugo was surprised to see Patrick did not write anything on his paper. Patrick said that what he wanted had come true and was in front of him. Hugo smiled at that moment. Hugo then approached his mother and asked why his wishes that he gave to Santa always came true. His mother also kept it a secret because she always knew what Hugo wanted. She had arranged everything that happened in the Christmas season, bringing Hugo closer to Patrick and also Aiden with Madeline. The snow fell and everyone rushed outside. Patrick took Hugo's hand and Kate asked to take their picture. Hugo and Patrick finally kissed in front of everyone and the movie ended. The Christmas Setup is a very heartwarming and touching movie, especially because it presents a love story that is rarely found in the Christmas movie genre, which is generally more often about heterosexual romance. The main message that I can capture from this movie is the importance of accepting ourselves, appreciating love in various forms, and having the courage to open our hearts to the people we love. Not only does this movie provide a sweet romance, but it also illustrates how family and friends can be a very meaningful support in one's life. The story of Hugo returning to his hometown and reuniting with Patrick shows that old feelings can resurface in beautiful ways, even though there may have been fears or doubts about who we really are. The movie succeeds in showing the importance of openness and communication in relationships, as well as how much family acceptance influences security and happiness. The involvement of Hugo's mother in supporting their relationship is also an important point in the movie, as it reflects how family support can make someone stronger in living the relationship they want, without fear or shame. This movie gives a very positive and relevant message, not only about love, but also about the courage to be yourself, especially in the midst of social pressure or expectations. And for me, the Christmas Setup is also a reminder that true love can come in many forms, and that Christmas is the perfect time to celebrate and welcome that love with an open heart.